Hello everyone, how's it going? Alright, I'm going to get started in a minute here. Welcome to the second video of the Get to Know Me Through Astrology series. In this video, I'm going to recap a little bit of what I talked about in the first video and how the Placidus house system works, especially because a lot of what was going on in my previous video kind of spills over into this video. I know I'm being super vague, but hi, if you're just watching this and you haven't seen my first video, the Get to Know Me Through Astrology series is basically me just diving into my own birth chart and analyzing it for you guys so you can see how one way that you can kind of jump into your own birth chart and analyze it, looking at the planets and the houses and stuff like that. And I kind of give you some of my personal stories and life experiences according to that particular area of my life and what I have experienced or what I think I will experience in the future. So that's kind of what this series is about, to give you some information in regard to the houses, the planets, and also how you can how you can approach your own chart. I don't get too into the depths of aspects. I don't get into sextiles or trines or oppositions or things like that. The only thing that I will talk about is conjunctions, because a conjunction is something that's going to happen in one house. A conjunction is when a planet is when two planets are right next to each other between 0 to 4 degrees. There is an 8-degree orb, however, so a weaker conjunction could be if they're 7 degrees apart. So yeah, I focus on the individual houses, okay? And in the first video, I started with the 10th house, okay? And I explained the reason why I started with the 10th house was because my moon was in the 10th house, and the moon represents the mother, and I wanted to start with the mother. The 10th house also represents authority figures, parental figures, so the parents are the ones that bring you into this world. So it just kind of felt right to start the story there. But as you're gonna see as I get more and more into these videos, the next videos, you can definitely start with the first house if you want, because that is kind of more symbolic to your birth into this world, you coming out and being born into this world, because the first house Cusp represents that is your ascendant. That's how you get your ascendant sign, which is the you coming out of your mom's womb and into the world, okay? So if you want to start with your first house, that's cool too. I was originally thinking about starting with the 12th house because I think of the 12th house as symbolic to the mother's womb, okay? And I'll talk about that more in the next video. But yeah, so I started with the 10th house, and just to kind of recap a little bit what I was talking about, I kind of explained a little bit of the Placidus house system and how I prefer to use that chart in opposed to any of the other charts because it allows more room for interpretation. It shows the signs and the planets more in a forward moving motion, which is the planets are in constant motion, whereas the whole sign system or the equal house system categorizes everything equally. You can't have, one planet is in, or if there's if you have a bunch of planets, let's say in Sagittarius, they're all going to belong to one house. They're not going to be split up into multiple houses. Whereas with the Placidus system, you can have two signs conjoining inside one house, and you can have planets in that one house with two different signs. And I like that better because in real life, different parts of our life do tend to spill over into other parts, and we're constantly in a forward motion as our life evolves and as we continue on our path. We're bringing energy forward. We're bringing, when I'm in my house, for instance, whatever is going on in my house, I'm on some level, I'm going to carry that energy with me when I go to the grocery store, when I go to work. So that's just kind of one example. Like things are fluid. Things are more fluid and in flux like that. And the Placidus house system reflects that a lot more. And I like that, okay? So it allows definitely more movement and more room for interpretation. But there are still specific things that we're looking at, okay? So like in my 10th house, I had Libra and Scorpio. So we're just going to focus, you know, I just focused on that and the planets that were inside that house. So now starting with this video, this is going to focus on the 11th house, but I am going to kind of talk about how you can interpret the 11th house if you do have another sign from a previous house spilling over into the 11th house, okay? So like for example, my 10th house cusp is Libra. So my 10th house ruler is Libra, and the ruler of Libra is Venus. But I have more Scorpio in my 10th house than I have Libra, but my 10th house ruler is still Libra. Whereas my 11th house ruler is Scorpio and Pluto, okay? And so most of my 10th house is covered by Scorpio, and most of my 11th house is covered by Scorpio. So my 10th house is highly energetically influenced by Scorpio energy and by Pluto energy, especially because I have Pluto in the 10th house in Scorpio. But the main ruler is Venus, so you see what I'm saying? And then the co-ruler of 10th house is Pluto, whereas my 11th house ruler is Pluto, okay? And then I have like a little bit of Sagittarius at the end going into the 12th house, okay? So that's kind of an overview, and the reason why I did want to specifically with this video start out talking about the 10th house in the previous video is because a lot of that energy from the 10th house is going to spill over into my 11th house, okay? And also when I was doing a lot of research on the 11th house cusp, I actually came across some really interesting information. Like, so apparently if you have planets really close to the 11th house cusp, and then depending on the planets, because the 11th house is going to represent your career, your work life, you know, where you're going to be successful. And the 11th house is like collective energy. It's the it's kind of like a bigger picture energy in reference to the social networks, networking and social group society, how we kind of implement new ideas into the system, how we go about changing things for the future, like innovative ideas, technology. 11th house is about dreams, wishes, just a more like connected kind of energy, okay? I think of the 11th house very much as kind of the internet, you know? It's very much like a global networking kind of energy where you're connecting with so many different people and you're coming together to create a new idea or to be innovative, you know, something very humanitarian. But the downfall of 11th house energy is going to be like separation, you know, because Aquarius energy, which is the original ruler of the 11th house, does have to do with individuality, and it does have to do with you on your own spiritual path as an individual, but still able to connect with a larger group of people or like a larger audience. Okay. So, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about the negative part, the negative aspects of Aquarius energy when I get to my second house video, because my second house is ruled by Aquarius. Okay, so 11th house, cusp. Okay, so they say that if you have like planets close to the 11th house, that you could very much fall into politics. Okay, because 11th house is also about like justice, and it's about you know, reform and you know, rebellion, but like productive rebellion, like rebellion with purpose, you know. Rebel with a cause, not rebel without a cause. So 11th house, if you have planets near the 11th house, that can definitely symbolize an interest in politics and falling into that realm of politics. And this is information that I came across, you know, just while doing my research on the internet and reading different things, and I don't I didn't take notes on, you know, the particular people who were talking about it, but I did find that, you know, kind of interesting because I have my Saturn, and this is usually if you have like the planets within like 2 to 3 degrees by the 11th house cusp. I have my Saturn in Scorpio in my 10th house, 4 degrees away from my 11th house cusp. And in this video, I'm also going to talk about the part of fortune. There's not a lot of information out there on YouTube about the part of fortune. The information that I did come across, I thought was super, super interesting. But after really diving into it, I kind of developed my own interpretation and my own analysis of the part of fortune, which is in its own way a reflection of the things that I have researched. I'm just kind of giving it my own little spin. Okay, so my part of fortune is 4 degrees away from my 11th house cusp in the 11th house. And that's the only thing that I have going on in my 11th house. I don't have any planets in my 11th house. I just have all this Scorpio energy. I have Pluto ruling my 11th house. And then I have the part of fortune, which is right there by the 11th house cusp. Okay, so I'm going to kind of like talk about how I interpret that and how it kind of plays into, you know, the bigger picture. So, okay, so first, the part of fortune is the part of fortune is this defining energy, okay? I think of it as kind of like like an alchemy of your ascendant, your sun, and your moon. So, very, very clear definition of the part of fortune. It's a combination of your ascendant sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign. So it's kind of like if you took those 3 energies and like mixed them up into a bowl, you know, and like baked a cookie with it. That's like your part of fortune, okay? It's a combination of these energies. It kind of like, it's that central point inside of you that kind of like makes who you are. It makes who you are in a very specific way that draws people to you and makes people want to like work with you, or makes people want to it's kind of like this it's this type of magnetism that will draw specific people to you, and that in of itself will kind of help you develop your fortune in this world, okay? So that's kind of the underlying idea of the part of fortune. It represents where in your life, where the house that it's in is where, and the sign that it's in is how. How and where your fortune, like where you're going to receive the most abundant energy, where you're going to, I guess like be the most successful, you can say. That is like your part of fortune. It's this I kind of think of it as like the Wheel of Fortune in tarot, okay, which is ruled by Jupiter. It's like where you're going to be, and even though Jupiter does represent also in your chart, like where you're going to find good luck, the part of fortune is much more balanced, okay? It's kind of, it's balanced in the sense of the energy that you put out into the world that is going to draw people to you, that's going to make people want to work with you, that's going to make people kind of want to help you expand your ideas. So that particular area, okay? So, you know, I have my part of fortune in the 11th house, okay? So basically, and it's in Scorpio. So basically what, you know, to put it in very clear terms, I am going to receive the most fortune in like with a broader like network of people, okay? And that totally makes sense to me because I would love, you know, I would love nothing more than to like reach people from all around the world, to work with people from all around the world, to connect with people from all around the world. Like I'm very, my family's from Serbia. Like I've done some traveling. I'm very, I love to learn. I love to meet new people, and that's my Sagittarius talking. You know, so when we're talking about a mix of these three different energies, so for me, my ascendant is Sagittarius, my sun is Sagittarius, and my moon is Scorpio. But when you actually combine those energies together, and there is a very specific way that you find your part of fortune, I feel like most websites, I use time passages. That's how I pull up my natal chart. It's an app on your phone. So the part of fortune does automatically show up on time passages. And I feel like most websites out there, it will automatically show up. But there is a way that you can calculate where it falls on your birth chart. So I'm going to give you two different ways that you can calculate it. One is you would add the degrees of your ascendant. So if you were born during the day, okay, so let's start here. You know what? Just give me 1 second because my allergies are kind of like being... Okay, so if you were born during the day, your sun is going to be in the top part, which is considered the southern hemisphere of your birth chart, but it's going to be in the top half. If you were born at night, your sun is going to be on the bottom half. Okay, so if your sun is in the top half, you would add your ascendant degree with your moon degree and then subtract your sun degree. And then it like, okay, so a visual representation of this that I find to be a really good way of explaining it is, let's say your sun is in the 10th house and your moon is in the 9th house, okay? So what you would do is you would move the sun so it meets the ascendant. So you would move the sun, and however many places, however many degrees it takes to have your sun be equal to your ascendant, that's exactly the same amount of degrees that your moon is going to move. So if your sun is in the 10th house and your moon is in the 9th, and you're moving the sun over 2 places, 11th house, 12th house, and then the ascendant, the first house cusp, your moon is then going to fall somewhere like in the 11th house. Okay? Which means that wherever the moon, so when you move your sun to meet it with the ascendant, wherever your moon falls, so as your sun is moving, your moon is moving the exact same amount of spots. So wherever the moon falls in your chart, that's your part of fortune, okay? I hope that made sense. That's kind of a more, I have to take this real quick. Hello? Yes. Are you downstairs? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll be right there. All right, bye. Oh my goodness. Okay, my grandmother locked herself out. She didn't bring her key with her, and I'm so sorry, but I'm going to walk away for literally like 3 minutes. And you're going to see nothing for 3 minutes because I still haven't figured out how to edit videos. So hopefully you hang tight.
Oh, I can't take it shoes anymore.
It's getting cold out. You should wear your winter boots.
That's hot outside anyway. That's not hot.
All right, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's this
Shit
make
happens.
me infection on my toy.
Your toes.
Yeah,
You know when like
I go in a internet and I see asking. Oh, okay.
you know how when you're kind of in a rush and then it seems like everything in the world wants to slow you down. I told you I'm recording. I told you in the elevator.
Oh, I forgot this.
That you caught me recording.
I forgot this. Yeah,
I know, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
I know. I just say.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah, like it was taking forever for me to find the
Oh my
elevator.
God.
It was taking forever for me to get
Yeah.
inside the elevator. Would you like to join the conversation? Nothing, Baka, nothing. Everything is okay.
Yeah,
Everything is okay. All right, so where did I leave off? If you guys are still here, that's awesome. Thank you. Where the heck did I... Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm looking here. No. I'm looking at you.
Okay.
Who's talking
There you
about?
I know, I'm talking to my friends.
Oh. Shit. Okay.
I'll have to bring my grandma here
Okay.
one day. That'll be funny.
Okay, thank you. I'm
So,
sorry.
it's okay. It's fine. It happens.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like
Okay.
pressing the elevator button and it was
Oh my God.
taking
Oh.
forever. There was people going up and down. But anyway, I don't think it was that bad. Now I'm trying to remember where I left off. The part of fortune, yes. The combination of your ascendant, your sun, and your moon.
Fucking don't have. Oh. I don't see key here. Well,
It's okay, Baka. We'll find your keys.
okay.
All right?
Oh, shit.
Okay.
I'm going, okay? I'm going. You can talk.
I'm trying to remember. I forgot now what I was going to say.
I'm going.
Now I have to remember.
Okay.
Oh, I took a bunch of notes for this video, but it kind of reads more like a story, which I'm not going to read. Don't worry, it'll come to me. I feel like the way that I personally interpret the part of fortune, my own analysis, I call it the Holy Trinity, okay? So, like, whether you're religious or not, you know, if you're Orthodox, if you're Jewish, if you're, like, whatever, if you're pagan, whatever, there's some kind of Trinity, the idea of a Trinity, you know, of, is, like, in any religion, mythology, type of thing. So, I was actually baptized in an Orthodox church. Okay, when I was 12 years old. I wasn't even a baby. I was 12. My brother and I were baptized in an Orthodox church. So in Orthodox, we have the Holy Trinity, okay? Which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So, you know, you can kind of think of the part of fortune as that, or you can think of it as like the mother, the father, and you, because the father represents the sun, the mother represents the moon, and then the ascendant is like you coming into this world and being born. Okay? It's the culmination of those two energies. So that's how I think of the part of fortune when we're talking about the energy. It's your holy trinity. It's this like focal point within the energy that you have within you. That's a combination of your mom, your dad, or your sun, your moon, and then the part of you that extends that personality out into the world and communicates and shows the world who you are. Okay. So that's like the best way for me to explain the part of fortune. Okay, it's just kind of this. It's this beautiful extension of you with those specific energies, the sun and the moon, harmonizing, blending to make something wonderful for the world to experience and for you to express. And that is what draws like abundance to you. It's what draws people to you. It's what draws success, money, like whatever the case may be. Okay, so, and then depending on like where that falls in your house, it's going to play out in that area. Okay, so the fact that like my sun is in the 12th house and then my moon is in the 10th house. So then, as you can imagine, you can kind of visualize how that then becomes my part of fortune in the 11th house. And it's in Scorpio. So, and then this is where what I was talking about in the beginning of the video about how energy moves and kind of spills over from one house into another. So this is how I kind of see that Scorpio energy playing out, because the Scorpio energy starts in my 10th house, and I have Pluto in Scorpio. I have my moon in Scorpio and my Saturn in Scorpio. So, and that Scorpio energy, it's very, very much tied to like the more mystical realms of life, whether you're interested in like occultism or detective work, like psychology. Some of those more like unconscious, subconscious, kind of deeper, more mysterious sides of life. Someone that has this kind of energy, especially in their 10th house, is going to be very drawn towards that kind of career and towards that kind of vocation, which totally makes sense because I'm doing astrology. I'm into tarot. Like, I used to study psychology and then I quit to be a writer. I actually have my bachelor's degree in creative writing. And I've always just been a very like deep person. I've always just, my imagination can go super, super far. And, my mind has taken me to so many different imaginative worlds and realms. And I found my outlet through writing, creative writing. And I've always had an interest in tarot and astrology for a really long time, but I didn't actually start getting into it until 2020 when, the whole world went up in flames. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to just sit around and do nothing, because I was, I was working in the restaurant industry, and I was working on a cruise boat here in Chicago, and they had to shut it down, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not just going to sit around in my house and do nothing. So that's how I was like, well, I'm going to do something that I've always wanted to do and I never had time to do because I was literally being worked. Like, oh my God, I was overworked at my job. So, and it's like perfectly okay to have multiple passions in your life. Like, I went to school for creative writing. I still love to write. On my Instagram, I do like tarot and oracle readings, but I write my own little like interpretations of it. I'm always writing something every day, and I have some projects. And then I started this tarot channel, and then I decided to expand and get into astrology because astrology is like super interesting to me, and I think I'll be really good at it. So. And I'm very much into intuitive astrology, evolutionary astrology, progressive astrology. I guess you can put it in those multiple categories. So, okay, so zodiac signs going from one house into another. Okay, so 10th house, So that's what I got currently going on. And then as that develops, it's kind of like, okay, so when we're talking about the 10th house, the 11th house, the 12th house, this specific quadrant, these three houses at the end of your chart, this quadrant has to do with the public life. It has to do with your outer persona and how you connect to the world. It's like you putting you and yourself out there for the world to see. So as your career is developing, so if you have like a zodiac sign that's halfway in your 10th house and halfway in your 11th house, it's kind of like as that aspect of your life is progressing and developing because of the movement of the planets, the next phase, the next evolution for that of what you're working on is the 11th house. So I kind of see that kind of zodiac and planetary energy where it's going from one house and spilling over into another. I see it as like a movement. So the planets are a concentration. So the planets that I have in Scorpio in the 10th house, that is what allows me to concentrate, on this area of my life, to concentrate on my work, to concentrate on my career, to concentrate and to really focus in and work hard on those specific things. And then, like as things kind of start to move, you can kind of like sit back a little bit and then you sort of like push that energy along and watch it play out, and you start to expand, you start to network, you start to talk to people. So you can kind of see how the energy starts to blend from one house into another. Okay, so that's how I interpret that, and that's how I interpret the 10th house, the 11th house, having a zodiac sign, moving into the next house, and then also having a part of fortune in the 11th house as well. And then, of course, with it being in Scorpio, it's going to be, like the way in which I'm going to reach people and the way in which I'm going to connect with people. It's going to have a lot to do with, astrology and occult type of ideas and more scorpionic kind of ideas, okay? So yeah, that is my analysis. What else can I say? Generally speaking, so if we just want to talk about the understanding of the 11th house, I know I already explained it pretty well, but it's, 11th house is also going to be about your dreams, your wishes, what you want for yourself. And what else can I say? Oh, I did mention briefly about like politics. So I have my Saturn close to my 11th house cusp, and I have my part of fortune close to my 11th house cusp. And I find this really interesting because I kind of wonder, like, if my next Saturn return, so my next Saturn return is going to be when I'm like around 60 years old or something like that. But like okay, so Scorpio. I just want to touch very, very, very briefly on Scorpio energy because, and this is something I wrote in my notes and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about this or not, but fuck it, why not? Scorpio energy to me is very, very much in my opinion, it's like a government kind of energy because when we think about the government and when we think about how much is being kept from us, how much secrets there are out there, that's a very, very Scorpio energy. And I have this philosophy and I have this theory that the Pluto and Scorpio generation, this is really what is going to bring, like, I feel like the Pluto and Scorpio generation, as time goes on, is really going to start to that energy in and of itself is like its own vibrational government. Okay? This is a theory. It's a philosophy. Some people might find it interesting. Some people might think I'm total weirdo, total freak, but that's okay. Pluto in Scorpio, that is its home. That is where it wants to be. When Pluto enters Scorpio, that is when Pluto is closest to the sun. Because remember, Pluto is on its own elliptical orbit. It has its own rules. Pluto in Scorpio has its own rules. Pluto has its own rules. It doesn't follow the same orbit as all the other planets. It follows like an oval, like a curve around the sun. So when Pluto, so let's say like this is the sun. So let's say Pluto's all the way out here at the end of that oval. That means that whatever sign he's in, he's going to be in that sign for a long time. I think the longest sign that Pluto is in is Taurus. And I believe it's like 32 years. Okay, and then when Pluto starts to move closer to the sun, he's in that sign for a shorter amount of time. And Scorpio is the shortest. Okay, so Pluto's in Scorpio anywhere from like 9 to 12 years, something like that, because he's like right there. And so and because that's like transformational energy, it has to do with like death and rebirth. It's a much faster moving energy when it comes to transformation of the self. When it comes to big changes, big changes happen a lot quicker. Okay, so I kind of see Pluto and Scorpio as like mini government. Okay, it's kind of like it's like a shadow. It's like a shadow government. It's like a shadow because it deals with this very, very powerful energy that transforms, that brings things into the light, and that transforms society and government and everything like much quicker. Okay? I'm just saying. Yeah. Whether people are aware of it or not, whether the generation is aware. If you like go on YouTube and you find videos where people just come on YouTube and they talk very specifically about the Pluto and Scorpio generation, they're all going to talk about some very similar things, about how some very warrior, I don't even know how to explain it, like some super medieval ancient type of shit, like it's just a wild ride. I recommend watching as many videos as you can if you are a Pluto and Scorpio individual, or if you're just curious about the different generations, the different Pluto generations and what they mean. That is my personal take, and it's not just because I'm a Pluto and Scorpio. It's just because that is how Scorpio is interpreted. That is how, I think everybody can agree that like there's lots of secrets, that there's always things that are being kept from us, and it's like, if anybody is going to bring that shit into the light, it's going to be the Pluto and Scorpio generation. I'm just saying, like, it's just part of the evolutionary process and the evolutionary cycle. So that is my take on that. It could just be my 11th house cusp talking, because I have my Saturn in Scorpio, and Saturn is like the epitome of government. Okay, so this is my second video in my new series, Get to Know Me Through Astrology, the 11th house. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and let me know if you want me to bring my grandma in here one of these days. Peace.